I built a 6-figure income in tech without having a 9-to-5 job, and it's the best and easiest thing that I've ever done. I wanted to walk through exactly how it happened. This isn't gonna be a fancy video, I'm just gonna walk through it. It's gonna be beneficial if you're a newer coder and you want to make good money in software and you're kind of lost on where the money is. So let me start with this statement. High income does not equal freedom. I literally did it all when the learn to code phase kind of was hot. I taught myself how to code, and within about 5 months of learning how to code, I got a 6-figure job. I decided to learn how to code through trading algorithms, which surprisingly is one of the easiest ways to learn how to code and has the least competition in the job market. I guess because it's C++ and it's kind of considered a harder language, so not a lot of people are getting into it because they're really just afraid. And I landed a remote job at that. So if you think about it, I pretty much had everything I wanted. I worked remote, I just worked from home. I literally didn't meet one single person that I worked with the entire time I was a software engineer. I never had to wear shoes, I never had to wear pants. I literally never had to leave the house. But here's the catch. This is what I got into it for, the high predictable income. I had been trading for a couple of years, it wasn't really going the way I wanted to. I had discovered the concept of code and I really wanted to learn how to code. Then I find out coding pays a lot. So now I realized I want a coding job. I want to get paid a lot. At that time, everybody was kind of promoting the coding job, the beginner level 6-figure jobs. And they were kind of saying that you get to sleep on the job, you get lunch on the job, you get all this freedom where you get paid a lot and you basically don't have to do that much. But the reality of it is that I got a salary. A salary is basically saying if you don't have a lot of work to do, you get paid the same amount. But if you have a lot of work to do, you get paid the same amount. So think about if you're an employer and you have somebody on salary for $100,000 a year. You're basically paying them $8,000 to $10,000 every single month. Would you let that employee relax? The answer is no. Especially when you consider that you can dump unlimited work onto that employee as long as they can handle it and pay them the same amount. So that basically means my hours were uncapped. I was basically working 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and I never had to leave the house, but I basically couldn't leave the house. I got to a point where I felt like I was working non-stop and getting paid the same amount every year. I was getting about a 3% raise a year, but on my paycheck, I didn't see any difference. So here's basically what it looked like. I tried to escape the 9-to-5 by building a software as a subscription app. I actually built a couple of those and tried to escape the rat race. I was working my job 8 to 8, sometimes 8 to 6. And then after my job, I would just code all night. And again, this is before AI. This is before Claude Code, Cursor, this is before all that. On top of grinding all day coding, I was trying to get the apps out there to make money. But what was frustrating was that I'm not a marketing expert. I was getting zero traction on these subscription apps. And what I was building at the time was a finance app, and I found out much later about Rocket Money. But even with Rocket Money being $1 billion company, nobody understood the app that I was building and what I showed them, because the target market was people that didn't really know much about budgeting, and showing them a budgeting app didn't make much sense. With all this burnout, this is how I started to feel. Different chair, same cage. Basically, when I was broke, I didn't have much money, but I had fun. I was everywhere. I was able to bartend for a couple of months here and there, quit because I found something better. I was able to pursue opportunities maybe in different cities, in different states. I was able to travel. When I was broke, it basically felt like I had a fresh slate every month. And it was kind of like this journey of figuring out where my next rent payment is going to come from. Then I get this high paying job and I'm basically chained to my desk. I buy a house and I have this mortgage, sure, but I can't travel, and I have this money, but it's just going straight to the bank and I can't leave the house. And then I do the math on the 2 weeks off per year I'm getting. It turns out that the average salary employee only gets about 2 full years of their working life free to themselves. And basically I'm calculating a lifetime's worth of PTO. So for 2 years of your life, you get paid without having to exchange your time for money. But that 2 years is spread out across 40 years of working. So check this out. While I was burning myself out working this 9-to-5 job, and I was basically grinding, coding, after coding all day on a 9-to-5, after being in meetings all day, I was spending all night at the computer coding. And any additional free time I had, I was trying to market and run ads and do all sorts of things to bring revenue into the business. And meanwhile, in my personal network, when I'm going to church, when I'm going to events, when I'm traveling and things like this, and people are asking me what I do, Everyone's so fascinated that I know how to code. It got to a point where literally everybody that talked to me was asking me to build them a website or an app or ask about some sort of tech that they were interested in. And because I was burned out coding all day, every day, I said no to everybody. I even found a video by this guy named Myron Golden who had a concept where you tell people it costs so much that you expect them to say no. And I actually started to use this technique not because I wanted to get paid a lot, but because I just wanted to say no without saying no. So as everybody's asking me to build websites and apps and things like this, I counted one day 7 people straight within 2 hours asked me to work on their website with them. I started to throw out fat numbers based on what they told me. Most of the time I just said $5,000 for a website, $10,000 for an app. And as I expected, most people started to just say no. But here's what happened. Even though most people said no, some people said yes. And even the people that did say no, they went and got quotes from software engineering firms and got quoted 10 times what I charged them. Now here's what happened next that basically changed everything. Claude Code and Cursor and those kind of things came out. I was still working a 9 to 5, but when I found out about Claude Code, I started to use it on the job. And basically what happened was the job got extremely quiet. I didn't really notice for a few months. I just thought we were slow as a business in general, but I started to realize that what used to take me full-time grinding, like literally 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., I was able to do in a couple of hours per day. And that's when I started to realize that my time that I would put into coding is going to be different with Claude Code. Now here's the key right here is the shippable code. All right, I'll be straight. In the beginning, this AI stuff couldn't code that well. I remember working on very simple tasks, very simple, and it was not able to understand. I mean, if you're working with 2 files at once or multiple repositories or doing anything slightly complex, it just was not good. I remember at one point I literally wrote in my notebook, if you have to prompt more than once, go code it yourself manually. That's how bad it was. But as a self-taught coder before AI who worked a 9 to 5 job, also before AI, and someone who uses AI to code every single day, I can tell you it's game changing. And this is what made this burnout and all these requests I was getting make a little bit of sense. I started to see the actual gap in the market. Check this out, 42% of small businesses lack the resources or expertise to successfully deploy AI. That means as this AI wave is happening, nearly half of businesses have no idea how to take advantage of it. 60% of businesses struggle to adopt new technology due to outdated systems and limited IT. And this is big businesses and small businesses. A lot of these big businesses have technology so old that AI isn't even gonna help them. Some of these very large companies that I've seen work with technology that's decades old, which means that to hire a developer, you have to hire one that has decades of experience, which means AI is probably not phasing them or you. But here's the other side. 80% of businesses believe AI will help their business going forward. They want in. That means if you ask 10 people if they want AI in their business and is it gonna help you, 8 of them are gonna say yes. The other 2 are probably just slow. But that is the gap, and it's a big one. You have 80% of businesses who want in on AI, and now you have people who can ship it with AI. Now let's talk about the retainer-based model. Basically, instead of charging a lump sum, like building a website for X amount, let's say $1,000 or $5,000, whatever, charge a set monthly fee to embed yourself as their engineer. Because in reality, if they don't know how to build a website on their own, they don't know how to maintain a website on their own. And tech is this everlasting thing. If you don't have a website, there's so much more that you don't have. After you get a website, if you have an engineer embedded, you're probably gonna want some sort of app or some sort of functionality. Most businesses need a platform of their own because Shopify or whatever platform is applicable to their business, it doesn't cover everything. Everybody's unique and everybody could use custom code. Coding Captain is a platform to run the subscription-based agency, and it brings predictable revenue when you have people paying you monthly. Especially with Coding Captain, you can do automated delivery. So the client puts their ticket in and then you just press a button and you can fulfill the ticket. Which means the business is very easy to get up and running. With the speed that you're able to deliver with AI, you get happy clients. If a client puts a request in and they get it back within an hour, let's say they just onboarded, they're paying $1,000 a month, they're building out their website, and within a day or 2 days, you have something up. And they say, let me change the color, change it from red to green. And now you have that change deployed within 30 minutes or an hour. They are going to be a customer for life. Because the reality is you can't just ask for changes in the traditional software world. You plan a project, and if it's not part of that plan, you have to pay more. And then when the project is done, you're done getting paid. Now, when you make these clients happy with the subscription-based model and the fast delivery, you're gonna get referrals, which means after 5 or 10 clients and working and doing this business model for a while, you're gonna start to grow as a small business, a boutique agency, without having to do much marketing. I grew my business with pure word of mouth. Once you start to tell people about your agency and things like that, word of mouth will likely be enough. So own the demand. Don't let the work own you. There are literally millions of businesses out there that need an embedded engineer, and now AI can actually deliver. So go to codingcaptain.com, check it out. It has an academy on there, an incubator if you want real people to help you out. And you can basically get to a point where most of your business is automated. But that's my story. That's how I did it. Interested to know what you think in the comments. See you in the next one.